I'm in my bedroom, and at the moment it's a little bit unnerving for me to do anything like changing clothes in here because wherever I stand in the room, Margot is watching me. Hello to all book readers and book reviewers. Today we are going to be reviewing book number 19 on the favorite books list, The Key to the Golden Firebird by Maureen Johnson. Maureen Johnson's first book falls into the category of books like Looking for Alaska and Bridge to Terabithia in that it explores the topic of how we deal with death. This book follows the story of three sisters, Brooks, May, and Palmer Gold, who at the very beginning of the story lose their father to a heart attack. So right away this takes the subject in a different direction. Looking for Alaska and Bridge to Terabithia look at how we deal with death immediately after it happens. But in this story, while we do see the immediate reaction to the death of their father, the bulk of the story takes place a year later, where we see that they are still reeling from this sudden death of their father, that they are still grieving, and that they are all dealing with it in their own slightly unhealthy ways. And so we see more of the consequences of the death, the long-term consequences of the death. We see what happens when healing is not allowed to happen, when the wounds are allowed to fester for a year. Each of the sisters deals with the death in a very different way. Brooks, who is the oldest sibling, deals with it by turning to a life of partying and drinking and hanging out with the cool people. Palmer goes in the other direction. She turns her grief inward. She becomes a complete introvert. Her days are filled with long, intense silences where she is either training hard or watching TV. And May is the responsible one. May is the one who is completely unlike her other two sisters. Brooks and Palmer both follow their father in an athletic way of life. May, however, is completely unathletic, and she has focused her time on academics. She's extremely intelligent, mature, responsible. In fact, she's the one who has been taking care of the family. She's been doing the bulk of the chores and making sure that Brooks gets home all right when she's off on an evening of drunk partying and making sure that Palmer actually eats something. That is May's task, and that's what May focuses on to get past her grief, but at the same time, she's bottling up a great deal of anger and resentment. She's kind of looking for somebody to blame. The story is told from each of the three sisters' points of view. Sometimes we're hearing Brooks' story, sometimes Palmer's, sometimes May's. And one of the interesting things is that they're all kind of on separate tracks, so when they reach the point in the story where they kind of either reach their revelation or they kind of get past whatever has been bothering them, then their story ends, and we don't hear the story from their point of view again. And there's also a fourth storyline. One of the other things that I really like about this novel is that it explores a relationship that often isn't explored in young adult literature. Young adult literature looks at friendships, it looks at romantic relationships, it looks at parent-child relationships, but it overlooks a fundamental and very, very important relationship, particularly in the development of childhood and adolescence. That relationship, of course, is the sibling relationship. They have a great deal of influence on how your personality turns out, and yet that relationship is so often overlooked. And this book focuses on the relationship between the three sisters, and in fact it's that relationship that is the fourth storyline. Because while they've been dealing with the death in their own ways, their relationship as sisters has been slowly falling apart. And one of the cool things about this novel is that it's told in the three sisters' points of view, and each time it's told from a different sister's point of view, it's written in such a way that makes the other two sisters look petty. And each of the three sisters, in their getting past their own individual grief, is taking a step to repairing the damage to their relationship as well. And I'm not going to tell you how they eventually do it, because I want you to find out for yourself if you haven't read the book, but it's really cool. And so this book shows not just the healing process of the three individual girls, but also the healing process of their relationship as sisters. Which in the end is what makes this book a favorite, and it is still a favorite. I don't think it's one of Maureen Johnson's more well-known novels. It is her first, but it is very, very good, and I would recommend anybody who hasn't read it to do so. And the 20th book in the Favorites List series is going to be Mist, the Book of Atris. See y'all later. Ha! Gotcha, Margot. Now you're being covered by If on a Winter's Night at Traveler.